Hey, it's Tyler Davis with Cross Country Mortgage here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, your local lender, back with another episode of Fiscally Fit. And this time I want to talk about something that is definitely on everybody's mind right now, especially if you're looking to buy a house. Rising interest rates. It is a fact that the time has come that interest rates have definitely jumped up quite a bit from where they were, say, a year ago. We are starting to see interest rates with a 5 in the front. That is starting to be something that you just kind of got to wrap your mind around. This is something that we were given advice on, say, 6 months ago when people were kind of waiting for maybe rates to go back down to where they were even further back, or they were waiting for values to come back down. And now we are continuing to see the values of homes stay up there a little ways, and now with rising interest rates, people are finding themselves in a position to where they might not be able to get as much home. Rising interest rates, what exactly does this mean for you? What you need to think about is this might mean that your purchasing power may have decreased a little bit. So let's say you started 6 months ago and when interest rates were a little bit lower, and let's say you were looking at $200,000 and that was kind of the top of your budget. That same amount of money that you had allocated for that budget, because you better have a budget, is now going to get you less home. If you've been shopping for a while, you need to reach out to your lender and make sure that your pre-approval is still as solid as it was 6 months ago. Things are definitely changing. Times are changing. Values are changing. I mean, you got to make sure that you are staying ahead of the game. So what are a couple things that you can be doing to combat the rising interest rates and making sure that you stay in the game? One of the biggest things that you need to make sure, and I can't say this enough, is have a budget. Have a budget in place. What are some things that you know you could cut out? So let's say now the same amount of house you were looking at before might be $100 more a month. So what are a couple things that you could take a look at your budget and say, okay, I could cut this out. Maybe I could go out to dinner, once or twice a month instead of 4 times a month. That right there will save $100. Boom. Back in the game for the same house. So just little things like that. Having a budget in mind, being conscious of what that is, because what you have to factor in is with the increased prices, higher interest rates, the same house that you were looking at 6 months ago is just going to cost you a little bit more money each month. Something you need to really pull back and ask yourself a question is if your current monthly payment estimate goes up by $50 a month and that freaks you out, you need to pause right there. There's a good chance that you're already looking at buying too much home in the first place. Back to talking about that budget. Really think about what your budget is. If $50 scares the heck out of you and you're like, heck no, because the interest rate went up a little bit, there's a good chance that over the time you own this home, that monthly payment's gonna go up by $50. Whether that be the values go up, you have to claim something on your homeowner's insurance, and one of those two things goes up, which when your escrow account reevaluates, monthly payment's gonna readjust. It's gonna go up. Something you really need to keep in mind, even though the interest rates are a little bit higher, a 5% interest rate is way less than 100% interest that you're paying on rent. Just sit back and think about that for a second. So you're paying another person's rent. You're paying their mortgage, you're building them equity, all the while being scared away by a 5% interest rate. And that's another big thing that you need to think about. It's still a perfect time to buy a house. If this is your first home, your second home, if you need a new home to meet you and your family's needs, it's the right time. We might wait and plan for the perfect time, but you can't stay in fear mode. Life is too short. You just gotta strike. You gotta act now. So for all the folks that may have been waiting and kicking the can down the road to buy this first house, stop paying somebody else's rent. Interest rate on rent is 100%. Don't be freaked out by higher interest rates. Interest rate isn't the end all be all. So reach out to your lender. Make sure your pre-approval is still solid. If you're not already pre-approved, give me a call. I'll make sure I provide all the links right here. I'm never too busy for the next opportunity to help. So again, to recap, right now we find ourselves here in April of 2022. Interest rates are up from where they were a year ago. Interest rates, if you haven't bought recently, there's a good chance when you reach out, your interest rate is going to start with a 5. Is that terrible? Absolutely not. Especially if you're renting right now, interest rates at 100% on your rent. Get in the game. Find yourself that first home. Now's the time.
I realize everybody's at a different spot with their fiscal fitness. If you ever want to talk, I'm here as a resource. You can call, text, or email. And when you're ready to get started, I can be found at loanswithtyler.com. I'm always prepared for my next opportunity to help.